Okay, Congresswoman, and you can begin.
Well, good morning. My name is Kirsten Sinema. I'm honored to serve you as your representative in Congress. Right now, you're listening to a live telephone town hall. This is an exciting and convenient way for us to keep in touch. During this telephone town hall, you can ask us your questions, so I hope you'll stay on the line and participate in our event today. If you'd like to ask a question or give me your thoughts, just press 0 at any time to get into the queue. As a school social worker for 10 years, I learned to put the families I served first. Now, as your representative in Congress, we're working to put the people of Congressional District 9 first. One of the ways I'm doing that is by fighting for seniors. Today, I want to have a conversation about the issues of concern to seniors and future retirees and what I'm doing to solve the problems we face. Medicare and Social Security are promises to our seniors. A promise that you can retire with dignity and remain active and healthy for as long as possible. It's my job to keep that promise to the seniors in our district. I believe that Medicare and Social Security are earned benefits, and I have a very personal reason why. My grandmother worked at a Furr's cafeteria in South Tucson for over 30 years after my grandpa died at a very young age. My grandma raised her 3 children alone, and times were tough, but she knew that hard work would always pay off. I learned this valuable lesson from my grandma, and now that she's retired and lives right here in our congressional district, I see firsthand the value of Medicare and Social Security. In 2012, when I first ran for Congress, I signed a pledge to protect Medicare and Social Security. My work over the past 2 years has done just that. I have vocally opposed partisan budgets that tried to gut Medicare and give tax breaks to large corporations. I opposed President Obama's proposal that would have cut benefits for millions of seniors already struggling. And I co-founded the United Solutions Caucus, a group of bipartisan freshmen who meet regularly to discuss common sense solutions to protect Medicare and Social Security while balancing the federal budget and cutting wasteful spending. To explore these issues today and to dive into them more deeply, I'm joined by a very special guest. Rich Fiesta is the Executive Director of the Alliance for Retired Americans. The Alliance is a nationwide organization founded in May 2001 with now over 4.2 million members working together to make their voices heard in laws, policies, politics, and institutions that shape our lives. For 13 years, they've enrolled and mobilized retired union members and other seniors and community activists into a nationwide grassroots movement advocating a progressive political and social agenda that respects work and strengthens families. Rich, thank you so much for joining us, and we're looking forward to hearing from you today.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman Sinema. It's great to be with you, and appreciate the honor of talking with you and your constituents on important issues, especially on Social Security and Medicare. I want to say at the outset that both programs, in spite of scare tactics and fear-mongering you may hear either on television or in the mail on internet rumors, both programs are secure, are strong, and are in good shape for current and future retirees. I'll start a little bit and talk about Social Security. As you know, Social Security is an entirely funded private system. It's our money. It's our employer's money put into the Social Security Trust Fund without any other government resources. And in fact, everyone who works at the Social Security Administration is paid for out of the trust fund, our money and the employer's monies as well. So that has been a stable, sound system since its creation in 1935, and in good times and in bad, Social Security has never missed a check. The benefits since the 1970s now have a COLA, cost of living adjustment to them, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Social Security Administration just announced last week that the COLA beginning January 1 will be 1.7% of an increase. And, of course, everybody who's on Social Security can use extra help like the COLA increases that have been automatic for the last 30 years. Social Security is strong. The trustees, the neutral people who look at its books, say that it is strong until at least the year 2033, and if the economy picks up and more people are working at better wages and a higher employment rate, then more money is going into the Social Security system and the Medicare system for that matter as well. So we at the Alliance for Retired Americans applaud Congresswoman Sinema for being a strong supporter of Social Security. She stood up, frankly, to our own president when he and others wanted to change the COLA formula and make it actually lower. He withdrew it from his budget, and we hopefully think that's not a threat as it once was. But nonetheless, we applaud her over the last 2 years for standing with seniors and the Social Security program. On Medicare, again, a one-stop shop medical system for people 65 and over or the disabled. Their trustees reported that because of a lot of changes in the new health care law, a lot of tightening of the belt, for example, that its trust fund life, its health, is good now until 2030. Just a few years ago, we were told its health was only going to be good until about 2016 or 17. So we've added some good life to that. And the new health care law, and many of you people who are on this call may be over 65 know that no longer do you have to pay for screenings for basic health care coverage like mammography, prostate screening, colon screening, bone density, diabetes screening. All of those services in a way for better preventive health are now free without a copay or a deductible under Medicare because of the new health care law. So, and we thank the Congresswoman for helping preserve and protect and actually expand Medicare in that regard too. So, over the next few years, there will most likely be more discussion about both programs being in crisis and all. Over the long term, there are ways to strengthen them both without cutting benefits in either program because, frankly, the Social Security benefits are meager. The average benefit is only about $15,000 a year, and anybody who tries to live on that alone know that's very, very difficult. And Medicare has made improvements, but healthcare costs seem to be going up, though they have been slowing, which is a good thing over the last few years. And there's some improvements we could make there on bringing prescription drug prices down. So appreciate the opportunity to be with you, Congresswoman Sinema, and give an overview, and maybe we'll get some questions as the call goes on.
Thanks so much, Rich. I really appreciate it. You know, and thanks to everyone on the line today. Listening to you is my most important responsibility. So now I want to hear from you. So I want to continue our conversation by answering questions from folks who are on the line. If any of you have a question you'd like to ask, just press 0 at any time. You can also press 0 if you want to share your thoughts or opinions with me, or if you'd like to ask a specific question about early balloting, voter registration, or anything regarding voting next week, just press 0 at any time. It looks like we've got someone on the call now. Rhonda from Phoenix, you're live.
Hi, thanks for taking my call and my question. My question is actually about my mom, and she really relies on her Social Security benefits in order to make ends meet. And I'm wondering what we can be doing to make sure that her benefits remain intact and are not cut.
Well, that's a great question, Rhonda. This is a big issue in Washington, D.C. right now to make sure that we're protecting benefits. With Medicare in particular, I fought hard over the last year and a half to protect Medicare beneficiaries from pending cuts in Congress. In fact, the Department of Health and Human Services was planning to make cuts to Medicare Advantage, which is a popular program in Arizona. Nearly 47% of the seniors in our district choose Medicare Advantage instead of a traditional Medicare plan. And Medicare Advantage was slated to be cut significantly this year and next year. But we fought hard with the administration, and we won. In fact, instead of seeing cuts, Medicare Advantage will see a very slight increase in funding for the next year as a result of our efforts. So we've got to stay vigilant to make sure that we protect Medicare benefits from budget cuts in the future. Rich, do you want to talk about some of the work that AARA is doing to protect Medicare and Medicare Advantage benefits?
Yes, both on Medicare and Social Security, we believe that the systems, as I mentioned earlier, are fine, are in good shape, and any improvements to them, like Rhonda's mother, don't have to come at the benefit of providers and should not come as in form of any cuts in either program to Social Security benefits or Medicare benefits to the people who have earned the benefits and paid for them in the course of their working lives. There are ways we still think we can improve both programs. One way improving Social Security is we think even with the COLA we have now, there's a better COLA that more accurately reflects what retirees, what seniors spend their money on. They spend more money on health care, food, and housing than the general population. And we think a better COLA formula would give seniors a few dollars more a month, and over time that adds up, for example. In terms of protecting benefits, both in Social Security and Medicare, we at Reliance for Retired Americans are opposed to privatization. There have been votes in the House and the Senate for that. We thank Congresswoman Sinema, that's why we've endorsed her, for voting against privatizing Medicare and Social Security. In other words, turning them over to private entities, private companies that would run them instead of the way they have been. So those are two things right now that we're doing, and appreciate the call from Rhonda.
Well, thanks so much, Rhonda. Remember, if you'd like to ask a question at any time during our call, just press 0. Or if you want to share your opinion or thoughts with me, just press 0 at any time. I also want to ask you all some questions today as well. You know, when I ask you questions, your answers help inform the decisions that I make, both in Washington and here at home as your representative. So today I want to know if you or a loved one rely on Social Security as a primary source of retirement income. If the answer is yes, that you or a loved one rely on Social Security as a primary source of retirement income, please press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, and 3 if you're not sure or you don't know the answer. While you're responding, let me tell you about a proposal put forward by President Obama last year that I opposed. It was a proposal called Chained CPI. I felt like it was a bad idea because it disproportionately hurt lower-income seniors, seniors with disabilities, and veteran seniors. Rich, can you tell us a little bit more about how Chained CPI would hurt Arizona seniors and why the Alliance opposed this specific plan?
Right. The current COLA that's been in effect, actually since President Nixon signed it into law, measures the inflation in wages, and because Social Security is taxed and withheld on your wages. So the COLA is tied to wages, and historically, wage prices, which have gone up higher than general consumer prices. So that's a good thing for beneficiaries, that your wage inflation means you'll get a higher COLA. People's incomes and wages are going up. What the Chained CPI proposal was that we change it from a wage-based COLA to a general price index of the cost of everything. And that would be a lower COLA every year, which means the beneficiaries of Social Security would have a lower COLA increase of several dollars a month. And as I mentioned earlier, we don't even think the current COLA at the Alliance for Retired Americans truly reflects what seniors and retirees spend their money on. So that's why we oppose that so-called Chained CPI adjustment.
Well, I appreciate that, Rich, and that's also why I oppose it as well. So while folks are answering the question, I want to take another call from someone on the line. Joyce from Mesa, you're live.
Yes, hi. I appreciate your campaign. I've heard you several times, and I appreciate your thinking on a lot of the issues. Social Security has not been, I don't understand it really. I'm a veteran. I've gotten views from both resources. I don't know where to go here in Mesa. I'm not originally from here, but I've been here since '07. And I've suffered a lot of things, but I'm also a Christian, and I'm not going to go off on the deep end. I'm just proud of my country. That's why I joined the service. But I also would like to know if you can do you intend to do more for the veterans to help us get understanding? It's not so much money if I can understand what's my responsibility toward these benefits that I receive. I didn't ask for them, but I appreciate your campaign issues that you talk about, but I'd like to hear more about what you will do for the veterans. I'm a senior citizen with health issues.
Well, Joyce, you've asked a very important question, and as you may have noticed over the last several years during my time in Congress and before that, when I served in the House and the Senate, putting veterans first has been my top priority. I come from a family of service. My grandfather served in World War II. In fact, he earned a Purple Heart in the Army. My stepfather served in the Vietnam War. My big brother is a retired Marine, and my little brother serves in the Navy today. He's active duty, serving down in California as a gunner's mate. So your service to our country is greatly appreciated, and I want to thank you personally for your dedication to the freedom and protection of the rights and liberties we enjoy in our country. I firmly believe that veterans who've given so much to this country have to be taken care of appropriately when they come home from serving our country. And unfortunately, right now, we are struggling in that regard. So I've undertaken a lot of action to reform the Veterans Affairs system to ensure that veterans who need care get their care appropriately and free of charge from the VA. Recently, I sponsored and passed legislation to reform the VA system, to increase funding, to hire more doctors, nurses, and health professionals, to build more facilities here in Arizona, and perhaps most importantly, Joyce, to give veterans the ability to see a private doctor if the VA takes too long to get them the care that they need. And we're working to implement that law right now. But as the issue of veterans relates to seniors, in terms of Medicare and Social Security, there's some important things that need to be done to protect seniors who are also veterans within Social Security and Medicare. Rich, could you talk about some of the most important elements of protecting Social Security and Medicare for veterans and how they could be impacted by some of the proposals in Congress to cut benefits?
Right. Well, one of them is what we just talked about before, the chain CPI proposal, because that proposal not only would have affected Social Security COLAs, but it would have affected every other program that has a cost of living adjustment. So if you're a veteran getting veterans benefits, your benefits would have been cut by that chain CPI too. If you're disabled, you would have been cut there as well. So veterans in particular were at greater exposure of having benefits cut both in Social Security and their veterans benefits by this change proposal to this chain CPI. That is one, too. The other issue, too, is keeping, much like our Social Security offices, keeping our clinics and our intake offices around the country open as well. You know, as America ages, we're going to have more seniors and more veterans needing to avail themselves of those programs as well. So we need to keep local clinics in the VA, Social Security offices open around the country as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich. I really appreciate that. Rhonda, thank you again for your service. Joyce, thank you for your service. I want to share the results from our poll. I asked if you were a family member rely on Social Security as your primary source of income. 70% of you said yes, 24% said no, and 6% of you are unsure. I think these results underscore how important it is to protect Social Security benefits for current beneficiaries and future beneficiaries. Many Arizonans rely on Social Security as their primary source of income. And for those of you on the call who do, you know that the funding is not nearly enough to meet all of your needs. So we'll continue to focus on protecting that benefit for the future. We have another caller on the line. Henry from Phoenix, you're live. Henry, are you there?
Oh, hello. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were talking to me. Yes, my name's
Yep,
Henry.
it's you.
I had a question about, I've heard so much about Social Security being insolvent, and I know you've talked some earlier about that, but One of the things that is my understanding about that is that in the past, Social Security money has been used to balance the federal budget. Is that true?
Henry, it is indeed, unfortunately, true. In past years, Congress, this was before I served there, has raided the Social Security Trust Fund to help meet some of their other funding needs. They promised to send the money back to the Social Security Trust Fund, but, Henry, as you and I both know, they didn't do that. And so the trust fund does have less money in it than it should because Congress has taken that money in the past. To be honest with you, Henry, the chance of Congress giving that money back is pretty close to zero. They're not very good at managing budgets, and they haven't shown a willingness to make tough decisions. But despite the fact that former Congresses have taken that money improperly from the Social Security Trust Fund, the Social Security system is solvent and strong for the future. Rich, do you want to talk a little bit about the specifics about the Social Security system and what it looks like in the future?
Sure. As we know, the Social Security is funded by our contributions as workers, and our match from our employers goes into the Social Security Trust Fund. Congress recognized way back in the 1980s that the baby boomers were going to start retiring about now. So that's when the withholding went up to what it's been 6.2% in order to basically pre-fund Social Security. So Social Security itself, according to the trustees, has a $2.7 trillion, that's with a T, trillion-dollar surplus that's been accumulated to take care of the baby boomers and future generations. So that is why the trustees are saying the system is solid at least until 2033. There have been attempts to privatize it, to move some of that money into private investments. It was certainly previous President Bush's plan to do it in 2005 and 6. Of course, there was a great backlash against that. But the system is solid. Now, as Congresswoman Sinema mentioned, there have been borrowings against the trust fund by the Treasury for the general government. So while the principal has almost not been paid back or nearly never paid back, there are bonds that the Social Security Administration issues to the government. So there is interest going back from the general government into the Social Security Trust Fund every year of several $billion as it adds up. That also helps keep the Social Security Trust Fund strong as well. So that's kind of the basic overview on how the system works.
Well, thanks so much, and thank you again for your question. I have a second question for all of you. I want to know if you or a loved one rely on Medicare Advantage for additional Medicare coverage. If you or a loved one utilize Medicare Advantage, please press 1. If you or a loved one do not utilize Medicare Advantage, please press 2 for no. And if you're not sure or don't know, press 3. While you're entering your poll responses, I'll tell you a little bit more about my efforts to protect Medicare Advantage plans in Arizona from cuts and unnecessary rate increases. Nearly half of Medicare-eligible beneficiaries in our district choose a Medicare Advantage plan, and I'm concerned that the previously proposed payment rate reductions would undermine the choices made by Arizonans by causing beneficiaries to lose needed services and experience increases in premiums. We took our concerns directly to the Department of Health and Human Services, and I'm proud to report that we won. We took action to prevent cuts to Medicare Advantage, and in fact, Medicare Advantage plans will see a very slight increase in the coming year, and that's good news for all of us. So while you're answering that question, I'll move on to our next call. Ray from Chandler, you're live.
Hi, this
Ray?
is Ray from Yes, I'm here.
Hi, you're live.
I had a question about if the GOP does gain control of both the House and the Senate, do you see that this will, that Medicare reform will, or Social Security reform will take be high on their agenda?
You know, Ray, it's hard for me to predict what will happen in the future, and I take care not to try and guess what other people will do. But that's always a scary thing for someone in elected office to do. But Rich, maybe you could talk a little bit about what you see happening or what could happen in the next several years if there's a change in who controls the chambers in Congress.
Sure. This idea of privatizing Social Security has been on the agenda of some in Congress, mostly, frankly, in the Republican Party since President Bush in 2005 and 2006 tried to do it. There was great pushback, and we were happy about that. I will say just last week, obviously it's not Arizona, but in Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, the current minority leader in the Senate, talked about how he tried to privatize Social Security in 2005 and 2006 and was unsuccessful. So if his party controls the Senate, and he's saying this, 8-9 days before an election, you would think that it may well be on the agenda should the change occur. And as Congresswoman Sinema knows, the rules are very difficult in the House to try and stop something like that as well. That who's ever in the majority, and especially the majority that's in there now, puts limits on how bills can be debated or even amended. So if the Senate were to take it up, it would almost be a sure bet the House may follow suit, in my opinion.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Rich. It's sobering, but that means we've got to double down our efforts to make sure that we're working hard to protect Social Security and Medicare, and that we're working to elect folks in the future at the House level, the Senate level, and the White House who share a commitment to protect Social Security and Medicare. Before we move forward, I want to share the results of our second poll with all of you. 32% of you or a loved one rely on Medicare Advantage for additional Medicare benefits. 51% of you do not, and 17% of you are unsure or don't know. So, again, those numbers are similar to what we see throughout the district. So thank you for sharing that with us and letting us know. We appreciate it. I want to take another caller. Deanne from Mesa, you're live.
Well, hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. Well, just like you, Kristen, my great grandfather was in World War I. My father and most of his brothers were in World War II, and the majority of my cousins were in Vietnam. Some of them were in Korea. My father was 33 years military, and he was one of the ones that got caught in the veterans where they just didn't give him the care he needed. And I was a medical coder biller, so I got him private doctors, and we used his Medicare and his Blue Cross to see doctors because he needed the care. And I cannot begin to tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing for veterans and their families, because a lot of people don't realize the families serve as much as the men or women do. They're as much a member of the military service as everybody else. They really are.
Well, Deanne, you are absolutely right, and I want to thank you and your family for their tremendous and continuous service to our country. Part of the work that we're doing in Washington is to support veterans, but also to support military members and their families. You know, Deanne, one thing I'm pretty proud of is a recent bill we just passed. We passed a bill that expands the Frye Scholarship. The Frye Scholarship is a piece of law that allowed to pay the tuition rates for college for the children of service members who lost their life in the line of duty. We've expanded that scholarship to include spouses of the surviving spouses of military members who sacrificed their life for our country. It's just a very small token of our appreciation for the many, many thousands of brave men and women who sacrifice so much to protect our freedom. So, Deanne, I want to say thank you again for your service and your family's service. I promise that as long as I'm serving in the United States Congress or any other elected office, that all continue to stand up for veterans, military families, and ensure that they receive the care that they have earned and that they deserve. Thank you so much. I want to ask a third question to all of you. There are some proposals in Congress to ensure that there's long-term funding security for Social Security. One of the proposals is to raise the earning caps on Social Security for current workers. Right now, if you're a current worker, your income is taxed for Social Security up to $117,000 a year. But if you earn more than $117,000 a year, you do not pay into Social Security for the income above $117,000 per year. There's a proposal in Congress to lift the earnings cap so that individuals who earn large amounts of money pay into Social Security for their entire income. So my question for all of you is to press 1 if you support raising the earnings cap on Social Security for current workers who earn more than $117,000 a year. Press 2 if you do not support raising the earnings cap on Social Security for current workers who earn more than $117,000 a year. And if you're not sure or don't know, just press 3. While you're entering your questions, I'll just remind you there's a very important election coming up. The general election is just less than a week away. In fact, it's on Tuesday, November the 4th. If you have a ballot at home, please remember to mail it today or tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday, October the 30th. It's the last day you can mail your ballot. If you're not able to mail your ballot today or tomorrow, you can drop your ballot off at any polling place in the state on Election Day. If you have any questions about voting your early ballot, or if you want to make arrangements to vote at the polling place and aren't sure where to go or need help getting there, just press 0 now, and a member of our team will make arrangements to help you ensure that you can vote on Tuesday. We have one more caller on the line, Lorenzo from Mesa. Lorenzo, you're live.
Thank you very much, and I think we talked about this a little bit, but wanted to get a little bit more clarification. My dad is a Vietnam vet, and he receives VA benefits. Next year, he is eligible for Social Security. How does his new Social Security status affect his VA benefits? Thank you.
Thanks, Lorenzo, for your question. Rich, do you want to talk about the impact of VA and Social Security benefits for folks who are nearing retirement?
I can, and I know you have some terrific caseworkers in your office who deal with this every day on the specifics, but generally they are two separate streams, let's say, of retirement income. That Social Security is normally from what you worked with in the private sector, where you and your employer both paid into the Social Security system, and of course VA is what you've earned through your military service as well. And there's a number of rules on credit and going back and forth there that oftentimes get very, very case and person specific. So I know Congresswoman Sinema has some great staff in your district office that can work with the caller on these issues in a very specific way.
Well, that's exactly right, Rich. So thanks for sharing that information. And Lorenzo, if you or anyone in your family has those specific questions, just press 0 at any time. And our caseworkers will follow up, open a case file, and make sure you get the help and services you need. You know, before we finish today, I want to share the results of our last poll question. I asked if you supported raising the earnings cap for Social Security for current workers who earn more than $117,000 a year. 70% of you said yes, 18% of you said no, and 13% of you are unsure or don't know. I really am grateful to hear your thoughts, in particular about this proposal. It's one of the proposals that I think is a useful proposal to solve the long-term concerns about ensuring the solvency of Social Security. It's my opinion that individuals who earn more than $117,000 a year, like members of Congress, can certainly afford to pay their fair share into Social Security to make sure that all workers have that benefit insured to them, this promise made to Americans that if you pay into the system your whole life and work hard, that this benefit will be there for you when you retire. So I appreciate hearing your thoughts and concerns. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's on the call today. If you weren't able to ask a question, I hope you'll consider visiting our website to learn a little bit more about what we're working on. Our website is www.kirstensinema.com. I think Congress should be accountable. That's why I voted for the No Budget, No Pay Act, because if Congress doesn't do their job, they shouldn't get paid. I voted against my own pay raise, and I've co-sponsored several pieces of legislation to cut out perks for members of Congress. I believe our seniors have earned the Medicare and Social Security benefits that they rely on today, and I'll keep my promise to protect both programs from unnecessary cuts. I'll work to find and eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse from those programs to ensure their solvency for future generations. I appreciate everyone's time today, and I want to say thank you in particular to Rich Fiesta for your time today and your always very valuable insights. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day, everyone.